If you work in land use or development in Utah, you need to know who is the land use authority. More importantly, why does knowing this matter for your project? Think of the land use authority as the decision maker, the person or group at City Hall who decides whether you can use your land in the way you imagine. Here's the formal definition. In Utah, a land use authority is a person, group, or agency that the municipality designates to administer specific land use regulations. Let's break that down with a familiar example. Think about how the federal government works. Congress passes tax laws, the president enforces those laws, but the president delegates the actual administration to the IRS, the agency that sends you those tax forms and processes your returns. The municipality works in the same way with land use. The city council passes land use ordinances, the rules about what and where things can be built. The mayor enforces those ordinances, and land use authority is the person or group who actually decides on your specific application. Need a building permit, subdivision approval, or rezoning? You apply to the land use authority designated to administer the process for your specific application. Here's what makes this a little more complex. Every city in Utah must have at least one land use authority. By default, that's the local legislative body, which is usually the city council. But cities often have multiple land use authorities, which the legislative body has assigned as the land use authority for a certain type of application. You might need to go to different people depending on what you're asking for. For administrative decisions like subdivision approval, the planning commission is typically the land use authority, or the building inspector might be the land use authority for a certificate of occupancy. However, if you need a rezoning, that's different. Rezoning is a legislative decision made by the city council acting as the legislative body, not as a land use authority who takes administrative action. One important update: effective 2026, almost all cities, including some fifth class cities, may no longer designate their city council as an appeal authority for land use decisions. These municipalities must establish a separate body for that function, further separating the legislative role of the council from the quasi-judicial role of the appeal authority. So how do you know who the land use authority is for your specific need? Read your local ordinances. There's no shortcut. Each municipality delegates authority different. For jurisdictions working on their development codes, consider creating a table that clearly identifies which land use authority handles which type of application. Also, include this information on the header of your application forms and your applicants will thank you. Now, even though the land use authority may feel all-powerful, Utah statutes impose 3 specific requirements that create checks and balances. Once the land use authority receives your application, they must do these 3 things. Requirement 1, determine whether the application was received in a timely manner and whether it is complete, meaning it contains everything the order requires, including the payment of all the fees. Requirement 2, review the application with reasonable diligence. And requirement 3, make a decision to approve or deny within a reasonable time. Those are the baseline state requirements, but individual cities might impose additional rules or more specific deadlines on their land use authorities. And if you're a property owner who feels like land use authority doesn't give your application proper consideration, you have appeal right, first within the city's administrative process and ultimately to the courts if necessary. The bottom line: remember our IRS analogy from the beginning? Just as the IRS is the federal agency that actually processes your tax forms and makes decisions about your taxes, not Congress, not the president, the land use authority is the specific person or group at City Hall who actually processes your application and makes the decision about your land. The city council may have passed the rules, but the land use authority is responsible for administering and who you need to work with. Know who that is in your municipality and understand what they require of you, and remember that your procedural rights if you feel the process was not conducted properly. This educational content was developed for the Land Use Academy of Utah. Funding was provided through the Land Use Training Fund, which is administered by the Office of the Property Rights Ombudsman, utilizing a portion of the 1% surcharge on all building permits in the state of Utah. The role of this organization in administering and funding is primarily administrative and should not be reviewed as legal advice. Always consult your legal representative when addressing land use activities.